Out of the millions of plants that God has created, I have chosen only 10 for my natural medicine cabinet or home apothecary. Hi everyone, it's Raquel here. In today's video, I am going to share with you what these 10 herbs are that I have included in my natural medicine cabinet. I'm going to share with you the 3 steps that I took to create this home apothecary. And finally, if you stick around to the end, I will share with you my 2 must-have herbs. If I could only choose 2 herbs, these are the 2 I would choose for year-round health, wellness, and first aid needs. Due to the nature of this video, I need to put up this medical disclaimer. I am not a doctor, an herbalist, a nutritionist, a naturopathic doctor. I have no degree in the body or in medicine whatsoever. I am simply a woman who loves my family and wants to serve them well and wants to be prepared for those inevitable illnesses and first aid needs that are going to come up, especially in a family with little children. And so I just ask that you do your due diligence, do your own research, consult with your own trusted healthcare provider before using anything for medicinal purposes. If you're new here, hello and welcome. My name's Raquel and I make videos all about enthusiastically and practically living out God's Word in your heart, home, and family. I would love to have you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any content about biblical living for women. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. I appreciate each one of you and I love our conversations in the comments. Thank you for being here. As you know, one of our tasks this month for October's Women Living Torah Challenge was to create our own herbal medicinal cabinet. So let me know in the comments how that has been going. Let me know what your must-have herbs are and what you have been including in your home apothecary. Let's get into my 3 steps for creating my home apothecary, and then I'll share with you the 10 herbs that are there. The first step that I did was just to write a list of general ailments and illnesses and first aid things that could come up, especially in a family with little children. Our family is actually pretty healthy. Occasionally, we might get a fever that will last a day. Other than that, we're pretty healthy throughout the year, which I'm so grateful for. But I do like to still be prepared because I don't want my children to be uncomfortable and feel miserable. If I can do something to help them when they are feeling ill, I want to have that knowledge and those tools on hand to comfort them. On this list, I had things like coughs, sore throats, fevers, congestion, scrapes, cuts, bruises, burns, and just basically made this master list of the things that could go wrong that are very likely to go wrong. I did some research online as far as statistically what are the most common childhood ailments. And then I also included some specific things for my family. So like, for example, I do not have a good source of iodine due to my food restrictions. And so I have to supplement with a herbal tincture in order to have sufficient iodine intake. So I included that on my list of general ailments and illnesses. My second step was then to consult my herbal books and then to talk with my naturopathic doctor and to follow up online with some research there about herbs that could address these specific illnesses. Now, one of the amazing things about God's creation is that He has made all these herbs with many different uses. One herb could be used for a litany of ailments, illnesses, and first aid needs. It's really amazing. It's so wonderful for me as like a minimalist-minded person, a really simplistic person, that I can take one plant and it be effective for all of these different purposes. And that means there's less that I have to harvest, less I have to grow, less I have to preserve. And so that's really one of the reasons why I only have 10 herbs here, because these 10 herbs are going to address everything that I need them to. And then the third step that I took when creating my home apothecary was to rank those herbs on the master list according to my context, based on different factors. So like, for example, is it safe for children? Is it safe for repeated use? Is it the most effective for this particular ailment that I want it to address? Is it something that grows well here? Something that I have to grow that will grow well here? Or even better, is it something that grows on my property in the wild that, despite drought, despite harsh winters, it's going to come back year after year and all I have to do is go out and harvest it. God grew it. That ranks really high on my list. So I just kind of took these different factors and just ranked these herbs and kind of just kept paring it down until I ended up with only 10 herbs that I need to grow or harvest every year and still address and be prepared prepared for all those different ailments and illnesses that could potentially happen in my home in any given year. By following those 3 steps, I ended up with these 10 herbs. This one is red raspberry leaf, which is good for overall women's health, pregnancy, and hormonal balancing. I drink this by the gallon when I'm pregnant, especially as I get toward the end, under the watch of my midwife. But I also enjoy a hot cup of red raspberry leaf tea every so often throughout the rest of the year also. A note on the red raspberry bushes is that they grow prolifically in the wild here, and then I also grow red raspberries, so that is a very sustainable general women's health herb for me. The second herb in my home apothecary is lemon balm, which I grow as a perennial in my garden. It comes back year after year. It's in the mint family, which is a very hardy family, so if you want to try your hand at growing lemon balm, I think you'll find that you can do it successfully. Lemon balm is considered a children's herb. It really addresses a lot of complaints that children might have. It's really good for calming. If my children are kind of whining and complaining excessively, I'm going to make them a little bit of lemon balm tea. I also use it when my children have a cold or the flu, when they might have a cough, when they have fevers, they might have restlessness, kind of all those symptoms that go around just being sick. This herb addresses very well in our home. Next is lavender, which I also grow as a perennial in my garden. It smells beautiful, it looks beautiful, it dries so well. It's a really great herb to grow, and it's so useful. It's antibacterial, antiviral. It can be used for general illnesses. It can be used for first aid needs. I have been using it as an essential oil, but as I start to take from my own plant, I'm going to be using it as the dried flowers and then also infused oils from the flowers. Peppermint is next. Peppermint is one of those all-around great herbs that has so many uses. I personally like to use peppermint for headaches, nausea, cough, and sore muscles. I either make it as a tea, or for topical application, I make it into a salve or infuse it into oil to rub into the skin. Peppermint grows wild here on the banks of the river, but I also have it in my garden as a perennial. It's very hardy. It's not going anywhere except for where it shouldn't be because it can be invasive. So I love growing peppermint. It has so many uses. It's just a great herb. Number 5 is not surprising, elderberries, or the elder plant in general. The elderflower is also very useful. This is one that is used in a lot of pharmaceuticals and pre-made medicinal products for its immune boosting properties. I like to use it for general sickness, colds, flus, coughs, sore throats, things of that nature. We have several wild elderberry bushes in our neighborhood, and so I harvest from those every year. I would love to have my own, but it's just not the way things are right now. So I harvest in the fall the elderberries, and then I dehydrate them, and when I need them, I'll turn them either into syrup. I have some in my refrigerator now. And I give my family 1 full syringe of elderberry syrup just throughout the colder winter months. And then if someone's kind of coming down with something, I'll give them 3 full syringes a day. And then I also keep it dehydrated to be used as a tea. I like to dehydrate and dry my herbs and store them that way instead of making them into some product like a salve or an oil or a syrup. I only like to make the product as I need it. And the reason why is because these herbs can be used for so many different purposes, but the way that you apply them could be different, whether it's a tincture or oil or a salve or a tea or a syrup. There's lots of different ways that you could use this herb, and I like that liberty to be able to make this herb into what I need it to be. For the most part, it's really easy just to turn this into what I need it to be when I need it, instead of pre-making stuff and then potentially wasting some of the herb that I didn't end up using in that form. Number 6, I'm going to call the skincare herb. It is plantain. This herb grows wild in my garden walkways, and instead of pulling it up and tossing it to my sheep or chickens, I pull it up, wash it, dry it, and then put it into an ointment or a salve, which I use for anything skin related. Rashes, stings and bug bites, infections on the skin. It's great for other uses too. It's considered a bitter herb, so I could use it for colds and flus and UTIs and diarrhea and all those types of things. But it doesn't taste very good because it's bitter, and so I don't generally have my children take this as a tea. I just use it for the skin. I put it into a salve, and it soothes those bug bites and stings so quickly. I have been so pleased with the salve that I made this year, including plantain. My daughter Abigail was walking in a field of clover barefoot, and there were lots of honeybees working the flowers. She stepped on one and was stung, and it instantly swelled up. Honeybees tend to do more damage than even a wasp. I mean, they swell up really nice. And so I took the salve out, which is primarily plantain. I put it on her sting, which she could barely walk on. And then within 2 minutes, she was like up and running and playing. And then later that evening, several hours later, she couldn't walk on it again. So I put that salve on it with plantain again. She was up and running and playing and having a great time. And then several hours later, after she had slept in the morning, it was swollen again. She couldn't walk on it. I put the plantain on it, and within a couple of minutes, she was completely fine, and I didn't have to apply it again. So it was very fast working and very effective. I did have to reapply it after several hours, but I was absolutely amazed by the difference between my daughter, who's hobbling over here, can't walk on her sting, to now she's running around like everything's okay. So plantain is a big part of my home apothecary. Number 7, while we're on the topic of first aid herbs, is comfrey. Comfrey is an amazing herb. It's called the knit bone herb, and it's used for things like broken bones, major and minor wounds, swelling, bruising, stings and bites, and joint pain. This is just an excellent herb that I use for wounds. I put it in my plantain salve, and so when someone falls or gets a cut or scrape, then I put this salve on there and it heals up so quickly. It scabs over and then it's gone. Or the bruising doesn't even happen, or it's very minimal and goes away quickly. This is such an effective herb. Now, it is so effective that I like to pair it with the antibacterial or antiviral herb as well, because it could potentially close up a wound so quickly that any bacteria that was in the wound could become trapped underneath the healed skin. So I pair this with something that can help with infections as well. This herb is just absolutely excellent, and I'm so thankful it grows so well in my yard. Next up is rosemary, which you can see I don't keep very much on hand. I do grow this, but it is not a perennial in my zone, so I keep it in a pot outside on my front porch in the warm months, and then I bring it inside to a sunny window throughout the winter. I don't use rosemary for a lot of purposes beyond cooking, but it does have one very specific purpose, which is why I include it, and that is as a pain reliever for joint pain, general pain. It can also be used for bronchitis, I believe, but I use it in my salves or as an oil for pain. And it's just an easy one to keep on hand. I don't need a lot of it, so I include it. Number 9 is yarrow, and unfortunately I cannot show it to you because my 1-year-old loves that plantain comfrey salve that I make, so she scooted the chair over to the medicine cabinet, climbed up, and pulled the shelf down. Everything fell, but my yarrow jar shattered into many tiny glass pieces, and so I had to throw all of the flowers and leaves out. And unfortunately, we're not in the time of year where I can just go out and harvest more. In fact, as I speak, we have 6 inches of snow on the ground. That is abnormal for us for this time of year, but it illustrates the point that I just can't go out and replace it right now. Yarrow is one of those herbs that is just amazing for everything. You can use the roots for toothache. It's a bitter herb, so it's really good for colds and flus and sicknesses, coughs and chicken pox and eczema. You can dry the plant and then grind it into a powder and put that onto a wound the blood is not coagulating, and it will stop the bleeding. It has so many uses for infections and inflammations. It's just an awesome herb, and I never use it. I don't really want to have it in my home apothecary, but at the same time, I just have to have it. It's like, what if I need it for whooping cough or something? I feel prepared when I have it, but at the same time, I feel like I'm being a little bit ridiculous at the same time. Herb number 10 is one that I do not grow, but I do have the seed to grow it next year, and it is calendula. This is a calendula tincture, which I bought from my naturopath that she made in-house, and I buy it because it is a source of iodine for me. I don't eat eggs, and I don't eat any aquatic life, whether plant or animal, and so I have to have a source of iodine, and calendula does that for me. Calendula has many different purposes though, so I will be adding it to my home apothecary kit just as the dried flower. It can be used for washes. It's good for bruising and bleeding, any major and minor wounds. It's also good for colds and flus. It's just an all-around great herb also. I highly recommend checking it out and researching it, because until I had to take this iodine tincture, I never never really realized just how useful calendula was. So I have not used calendula in my home apothecary in previous years. I've only used it as this supplement for iodine for myself, but going forward, I will definitely be including it. Two other non-herbal items I keep on my home apothecary shelf are honey and olive oil. There's no olive oil in here because I just cleaned the jar and I haven't added more back yet. But honey I keep on hand because it's really great for coughs and sore throats. It helps to soothe the sore throat. It's antibacterial. And so when my kids are sick, I give them a spoonful of honey and they love it. They wish they were sick more often. I also put it on cuts and scrapes and things like that, things that might scar, and it tends to help with scarring from what I understand. I also like to keep olive oil on my herbal shelf, and the reason why is because olive oil is a topical pain reliever, and it's also a really great base for my salves and my infused oils. So I use olive oil almost exclusively. Coconut oil really dries out my skin and my family's skin. Olive oil is really moisturizing. The only downside to olive oil is that it's not sustainable for me here in North Idaho. I am going to experiment with using some of my sheep tallow in future products that I make. So we'll see how that goes. But for right now, olive oil it is. And last but not least, a few little tools I use are some tea balls, which I put the dry leaves into, and then you can steep it in your cup and take it out, empty the leaves into the compost, and you have a hot steaming cup of herbal tea. Of course, we use a thermometer to determine if a child has a fever. I use this little plastic syringe. I would love to find one that wasn't plastic. All of the markings have gone off of it because we've had this one for a long time. I just rinse it out, wash it, and then reuse it. So I don't know exactly how much one full syringe is, but this is what I mean when I say I give my kids one syringe full of elderberry syrup per day throughout the winter months. This is what I mean, and it's just a great little tool to have. And then I also have Perry bottles, which I keep on hand. These are like $1 on Amazon, so very affordable and super useful. They have like the squirt at the top on the lid, so I make an herbal tea, essentially, and put it inside, diluting it down with water, and then you can use this for like a calendula wash, or a plantain wash, for example, for any like skin type elements. If you have a rash, you can make that herbal tea, dilute it down in the bottle, and then squirt it on the rash. Also, if you've ever given birth before, you're probably intimately familiar with the Perry bottle. It's very useful for diluting your urine as you heal, but it's just an all-around great tool to have for the herbal medicinal cabinet. That was a lot. 10 herbs, 2 non-herbal items, and then the different tools or whatever that I keep on hand in my home apothecary. Now the 2 herbs, and if I had to choose only 2 for the whole year for my whole family to address most, if not all, of the illnesses and ailments that my family would face throughout a year, it is lavender and comfrey. These 2 herbs together are amazing and highly effective. They can be for any type of sting, any type of bug bite, inflammation, swelling, bruising, just first aid in general, major wounds, minor wounds. They both pair together so well for first aid. And then by itself, lavender is just wonderful for colds and flus and infections and all of that type of thing as well. You can use these things as oils, as salves, as a tea, as a tincture, as a essential oil. So these are the 2 herbs that I would choose, lavender and comfrey. I love these 2. They are my absolute favorites. Now I want to hear from you. What are your must-have herbs? What have you included in your own home apothecary? What do you use those herbs for? Share with us in the comments below. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, share it with a friend, and subscribe if you haven't already. We have a wonderful community of biblical, godly women, and I am so thankful for each one of you. I'm thankful that you are here today. I pray that God would bless you and keep you. I'll talk with you later. Bye-bye.